John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. I've got another broadhead battle lined up for today, and it's kind of a different broadhead battle in that both of the heads are made by the same company. I've done this in some other instances, like with the Magnus. I tested the Stinger compared to the Black Hornet. And in this case, I'm going to be testing two models of Tooth of the Arrow broadheads. In this corner, I've got the Tooth of the Arrow Original, and in this corner, I've got the Tooth of the Arrow XL. I'm going to zoom on in here, go through some of the specs, and then put them to the test and see which one prevails. These are the 125 grain models of the heads. Of course, this is the original 1 inch. This is the XL, the 1 3/16 inch. They're machined from a solid bar of 11L41 steel, so a high carbon steel and nice steel. They're brought to a Rockwell hardness of 45. As you can see, they're plated with a black oxide to cut down on glare in the field. And they have a unique feature about them that they keep a lot of the weight within the diameter of the arrow shaft. For the original 1 inch here, more than 85% of the weight is kept within the diameter of the arrow shaft. That's going to really help in long-range flight and spinning. And even for the XL, more than 80% of the weight is kept within the diameter of the arrow shaft. So that's pretty cool. 100% made in the USA. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to put these to the test. I'm going to test them for long-distance flight, and I'm going to test them for edge sharpness and retention, for penetration, and for durability. Let's see how these two Tooth of the Arrow heads perform.
Bullseye. Bullseye.
Out of the box sharpness. 1 stroke of the arrow. 2 strokes of the arrow. 3 strokes of the arrow. 4 strokes of the arrow. 5 strokes of the arrow. Tooth of the Arrow cut paper after 5 strokes of the arrow. Tooth of the Arrow XL penetrated 8 inches. Tooth of the Arrow Original penetrated 9 inches. Here's the heads after they've gone through the 22 gauge steel plate 5 times. And as you can see, they look brand new. Matter of fact, it's hard to tell that these were even shot at all, let alone shot through the steel plate, as well as in the penetration test through the MDF. Really impressive durability and edge retention through that really hard medium. You can only see on one of the XL blades a little bit of cosmetic marking. I don't even know if you can pick that up. It's very hard to see. Extremely impressive durability, some of the very best that I've tested. Now, I understand I've heard some reports of people shooting them and hitting them into a big heavy bone and one of the blades bending or shearing off. That can happen with any broadhead. There's all kinds of crazy things that can happen in the field as you hit heavy bone at different angles. But through the steel plate, as you can see, they've fared extremely well. And the holes themselves are really what sets the Tooth of the Arrow apart. Okay, here you can see the holes from the XL, okay? They're just big squares, okay? They're not just like 4 crosses or, 2 crosses, 4 little slits. I mean, they are true squares. And then down here is the original, the 1 inch. So the 1 inch, the 1 3/16 inch. And you can see even with that, it's just a nice chunk of a hole. There's very few heads that are able to punch a chunk out like that. The Exodus does it in a triangular shape. And as you can see here, the Tooth of the Arrow does it extremely well in a 4-blade shape. So that's going to be a really difficult hole to close up in an animal. So there's the cinder block. After that, I put a lot of arrows into that, and man, it was definitely hurting. So I'm not surprised. You could see that big crack in it even before I shot it. But man, these Bishop arrows, I just can't say enough about them. I mean, they just put a whacking on things and stay alive and strong. Now let's look at the head and see how it did after this encounter. Here's the tooth of the arrow after going into that cinder block and busting it apart. It's just an incredible shape. It spins perfectly true. The tip is still super pointy, didn't bend over at all. The blades are in great shape. They got a little bit nicked up on the top of each blade, just a little bit. Nothing that I don't think they could be sharpened again out of. I just spent about 5 minutes touching these blades up just to show you how easy it is to do it. And I understand they have a sharpener that you can purchase on their website. I don't have one of those. I need to get one of those. But honestly, I do really well with just a little sharpener. This is the thing that I use. It fits in there perfectly. This is from a Spyderco sharpener, but you can use any. This is just so easy. It's like a little file. And I just sharpen the blades individually, about 10 strokes on each blade, just the blade portion, like that goes up about to there. And then on the tip, I just use the same thing, but I just use it flatways like that and cover both blades at once. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but it sure worked well for me. And this head, it's now like shave a nail. I mean, it's just like it was. The tip is super sharp. And this is right after going into that concrete block. So what'd you think of this Broadhead battle? The original versus the XL. You know, each of them has their distinct strengths. In terms of overall flight, man, the original flies incredibly well. It's one of the very best flying broadheads, one of the most forgiving broadheads I've ever tested. In terms of penetration, the original penetrated much more deeply. But in terms of hole size, man, the XL really ruled in that department, though both of them really made a nice square hole in the mediums that I shot them through. In terms of which one is the winner, really, it's a toss-up, okay? I got to call it a tie. I hate to do that. I hate draws in MMA and stuff like that, but this really is a draw. It just depends on your personal setup and what you're hunting. If you're going after a really big animal where penetration is the most important thing, then man, the original is the way to go. If you have a lighter setup and you're concerned about your penetration, then the original is the way to go. If you're going after a really long range shot, like a pronghorn or something like that you're going beyond 60 yards, then the original is the way to go. But if you're going for a shot under 60 yards and you really want to make a nice big hole and you have the kinetic energy to drive it through, and honestly, it really doesn't take that much kinetic energy to drive it through, then man, the XL is the way to go. For whitetail, for hogs, shots under 50, 60 yards, I would definitely choose this one. What I think is the best combination is to have a few of both in your quiver. And if the shot is going to be longer, then you pull out the original. If the shot is going to be shorter, then you pull out the XL. And that way you're ready for any situation and honestly, any animal as well. These are fantastic broadheads. Great job, Tooth of the Arrow. Give them a look.